có nhiều bóng mát bên bờ sông Bạc Đà La ở nước Ma Kiệt Đà. Hồi đó hai vị tôn giả Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên vừa nhập diệt không lâu. Hôm ấy là ngày rằm, có lễ Bố Tát tụng giới. Bụt trải tòa cụ ngồi trước đại chúng. Sau khi đưa mắt quan sát, người cất tiếng: nhìn đại chúng hôm nay, tôi thấy một khoảng trống lớn. Đó là tại vì hai thầy Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên đã nhập Niết Bàn. Trong giáo đoàn Thanh Văn của chúng ta, hai vị Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên là những người có tài năng đầy đủ nhất về các phương diện thuyết pháp, khuyên bảo, dạy dỗ và biện thuyết. Này quý vị, trên đời có hai thứ tài sản mà người ta thường ưa tìm cầu, đó là tiền tài và pháp tài. Tiền tài là thứ người ta chạy theo người đời để tìm cầu. Pháp tài là thứ người ta có thể đi tìm cầu từ hai thầy Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên. Như Lai là người không còn tìm cầu gì nữa, dù là tiền tài hay pháp tài. Các vị đừng có vì sự kiện hai thầy Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên nhập diệt rồi mà ưu sầu và khổ não. Một cây đại thụ thì có đủ rễ, thân, lá, cành, hoa và quả sum xuê và tươi tốt. Nhưng ta biết những nhánh lớn sẽ bị tàn lụi và gãy đổ trước những nhánh nhỏ. Cũng như trên dãy núi Châu Báu kia, đỉnh cao nhất lại là đỉnh sẽ sụp đổ trước. Trong đoàn thể đại chúng tu học của Như Lai, Xá Lợi Phất và Một Kiền Liên là hai vị học giả lớn. Vì vậy, nếu hai vị có nhập Niết Bàn trước, đó cũng là chuyện đương nhiên. Cho nên tôi mới khuyên quý vị là trở nên sinh tâm u sầu và khổ não. Tất cả các hiện tượng nào có sinh khởi, có tồn tại, có tác dụng trên các hiện tượng khác. Nói khác hơn là tất cả các pháp hữu vi đều phải theo luật vô thường để đi đến hoại diệt. Muốn cho chúng còn mãi, còn hoài mà không hoại diệt, đó là một chuyện không thể xảy ra. Tôi đã từng nhắc nhở quý vị nhiều lần rằng tất cả những gì ta trân quý hôm nay, ngày mai thế nào ta cũng phải buông bỏ và xa lìa. Chính tôi chẳng bao lâu nữa cũng sẽ ra đi. Vì vậy quý vị phải thực tập làm hải đạo tự thân, biết nương tựa nơi chính mình mà đừng nương tựa vào một kẻ nào khác. Phải thực tập nương tựa vào hải đạo chánh pháp, biết nương tựa nơi chánh pháp, chứ đừng nương tựa vào một hải đạo nào khác hay một ai khác. Điều này có nghĩa là thực tập an trú trong phép quán niệm, nội thân trong nội thân, sử dụng các bài tập một cách chuyên cần để nuôi dưỡng chánh trí và chánh niệm, để điều phục và chuyển hóa những đam mê và âu lo trên đời. Và cũng có nghĩa là thực tập an trú trong phép quán niệm, ngoại thân trong ngoại thân, sử dụng các bài tập một cách chuyên cần để nuôi dưỡng chánh trí và chánh niệm, để điều phục và chuyển hóa những đam mê và âu lo trên đời. Đó gọi là phép quay về nơi hải đạo tự thân, để nương tựa nơi hải đạo tự thân, quay về nơi hải đạo chánh pháp, để nương tựa nơi hải đạo chánh pháp mà không nương tựa vào một hải đạo nào khác hay nơi một vật nào khác. Nghe Bụt dạy kinh này, các vị khất sĩ đều vui mừng làm theo.
Discourse on taking refuge in oneself. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was staying in the mango grove, in the cool shade of the mango trees along the bank of a river in the land of Magadha. The elders Shariputra and Moggallana had recently passed away. It was the full moon day of the Uposatha ceremony, and the precepts were recited. The Buddha spread out his sitting mat and sat facing towards the community. After looking out at those gathered, he said, "As I look at our community, I see a large space left by Venerable Shariputra and Moggallana. In our Sangha, these venerables were the monks who were the most eloquent in giving Dharma talks, encouraging and instructing all other monks, nuns, and lay people. O monks, people seek two kinds of riches, material riches and the riches of the Dharma. In their search for material riches, they can go to worldly people. In their search for the riches of the Dharma, they could always go to Venerable Shariputra and Moggallana. The Tathagata is someone who is not searching for anything, whether it is material or the Dharma. O monks, do not be sad or anxious because Shariputra and Moggallana have passed into nirvana. On large trees filled with leaves, sumptuous fruits and flowers, the largest branches also have to break. On jeweled mountains, don't the highest peaks also have to erode? In the Sangha of the Tathagata, the Venerable Shariputra and Moggallana were the greatest students, so it's natural that these venerables would enter nirvana first. Do not give rise to feelings of sorrow or anguish. All phenomena that are born, exist, and are subject to the influence of other phenomena. In other words, all phenomena are composite, must abide by the law of impermanence, and eventually cease to exist. They cannot exist eternally without someday being destroyed. Everything we cherish and hold dear today, we will have to let go of and be separated from in the future. In not too long a time, I will also pass away. Therefore, I urge you to practice being an island unto yourself, knowing how to take refuge in yourself, and not taking refuge in anyone or anything else. Practice taking refuge in the island of the Dharma. Know how to take refuge in the Dharma. Do not take refuge in any other island or person. Meditate on the body in the body, nourishing right understanding and mindfulness to master and transform your cravings and anxieties. Observe the elements outside the body and the elements outside the body, nourishing right understanding and mindfulness to master and transform your cravings and anxieties. That is the way to take refuge in the island of self, to return to yourself in order to take refuge in the Dharma, and not to take refuge in any other island or thing. When the bhikkhus heard Buddha offer this teaching, they were all very happy to put it into practice.
Kính mời đại chúng mở trang số 16. Trang số 16, please turn to page 16. Page 16. Chúng con đường nội đây trong phút giây hiện tại bảo vòng bơi tấn thang
mình thân mây măng sinh ra để làm người
có sớm gặp gia đề dâm hòa cho thế hệ tương lai, cho xã hội niềm an lạc của con lại vốn liếng.
tu tập con xin nguyện vô
Ban ơi tươi tắn và nuôi dưỡng bà chánh niệm hàng ngày
trong xã hội của con.
bao nhiêu người đau khổ chia đau trăm năm dùng dẫn dắt và hàm thù thấy được
Những cảnh này có quyết tâm hành trì
phồm nhớ tam hạnh tham đau và dần dáng tạo khả năng lắng nghe và sử dụng từ để thiết là truyền thông
tạo nên sự
hiểu biết trong nhận và thương yêu như đỡ Bồ Tát kia có quyền sinh tâm nhìn
mỗi người chung quanh con.
bằng ơn từ bi bằng tâm tình hiểu biết con sẽ tập lắng nghe bằng đôi tai xót thương bằng
Tâm lòng lắng mừng
nhìn và nhìn như thế là hành của Bồ Tát có thể làm với
nhẹ
nhẹ
khổ đau trong lòng
người đem lại niềm an
an
lạc
lạc về cho cả hai phía.
chúng con ý thức rằng chính phiền não si mê làm cho thế giới này trở thành qua nùng nếu tướng tập chuyển hóa chế tác được hiểu biết cảm thọ và thương yêu
Nó sẽ tạo đường tịnh độ ngay nơi này.
dù cuộc đời vô thường dù sinh lão bệnh tử đã có đường đi rồi con không còn lo sợ hạnh phúc thấy được sống trong tăng độ thế tôn được hành trì giới định sống vững chãi cho tờ giấy tờ phong của cuộc sống hàng ngày và trực tiếp tham gia vào sự nghiệp độ sinh của bồn.
Bồ Tát giờ phút này quy báo niềm biết ơn tràn dâng
Sẽ lại đưa thế tôn chứng minh và nhiếp thọ. Xin mời đại chúng mở trang số 22. Please turn to page 22. Nguyện Ngài an lành đem an lành đem Ngài
sau thời
an lành cho mỗi giây mỗi phút cầu âm che chở Nam Mô Bồ Tát Thiếu Ta Giác Kiết Tường Nam Mô In gratitude to our parents that gives us life and our country that keeps us safe, we bow deeply to three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ cha mẹ sanh thành quân dân vào hầu, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. In gratitude to our teachers and friends that support us on the path, we bow deeply to three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ sư trưởng giáo huấn liệt vị tinh thí đàn na, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. In gratitude to all the plants, animals, and mineral world, we bow deeply to three jewels in the 10 directions. Đệ tử chúng con nhớ mọi loài chúng sanh cây cỏ đất đa, cúi đầu kính lễ tam bảo thường trụ trong 10 phương. Kính mời đại chúng cùng an tọa. Please be seated.
Nam mô A Di Đà Phật. Con kính bạch trên thầy, kính bạch quý thầy, quý sư cô cùng toàn thể đại chúng. Hôm nay trước khi con xin phép được chia sẻ pháp thoại bằng tiếng Anh cho các bạn trẻ, thì con kính thỉnh đại chúng ta cùng chắp tay để niệm hồng danh Đức Bổn Sư 3 lần trước khi chúng ta bắt đầu buổi chia sẻ Phật pháp. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Nam mô Bổn Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Good morning, dear Sangha, dear brothers and sisters. Today is the 19th of November 2023. And how are you doing today? Today we will continue with the discourse on happiness. So I shared many weeks ago about this discourse, and we've been going through verse by verse to study the discourse on happiness together. And so today I have the chance to once again resume sharing the discourse with this discourse on happiness with everyone. And before we go into our verse for today, then I will just read the discourse on happiness up to the part where we left off at last time. So you may relax your body, close your eyes, and Just listen to the discourse. Discourse on happiness. I heard these words of the Buddha one time when the Lord was living in the vicinity of Savatthi at the Anathapindika monastery in the Jeta Grove. Late at night, a deva appeared whose light and beauty made the whole Jeta Grove shine radiantly. After paying respects to the Buddha, the deva asked him a question in the form of a verse. Many gods and men are eager to know, what are the greatest blessings which bring about a peaceful and happy life? Please, Tathagata, will you teach us? This was the Buddha's answer. Not to be associated with the foolish ones, to live in the company of wise people, honoring those who are worth honoring. This is the greatest happiness. To live in a good environment, to have planted good seeds, and to realize you are on the right path. This is the greatest happiness. To have a chance to learn and grow, to be skillful in your profession or craft, practicing the precepts and loving speech. This is the greatest happiness. To be able to serve and support your parents, to cherish your own family, to have a vocation that brings you joy. This is the greatest happiness. So far we've only went through 4 verses, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them left. We spent a lot of time just going through 4 verses, but as you might have heard from my brief reading of the discourse, it's very, very easy to understand, right? So how come we are taking the time to study it word by word, bit by bit? And the reason why I want to do this with you is because I want for all of us to be reminded of our conditions of happiness that we have already in our present life. And, in our practice, when we have happiness, there's a skill, there's an art that we need to learn in order to preserve that happiness. So whenever we have a condition of happiness, for example, we have parents that we can support, that we can repay for their kindness, for their love, and that is condition of happiness. But if we don't know how to continue to preserve that condition of happiness, then one day when we lose that condition of happiness, then we have a lot of regret. So there's 2 components to the practice. There's protecting the flowers, nourishing the flowers, and transforming the garbage, or transforming the compost. In Vietnamese we say Bảo trì hoa, chuyển hóa rác. It means the flowers that we have already in our daily lives, we try our best to keep those flowers as beautiful and as fresh as we can for as long as we can. We know the nature of the flower is impermanent. One day the flower will wither, and we will have to see the flower not be fresh anymore. But during the time when we still have with that flower, just because one day it will wither, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take care of it, so that we can extend its freshness, extend its beauty for as long as we can. And that's the art of living. So we're studying it in depth also because as we are going through these verses, we are going deeper into what the Buddha specifically said about each, factor, or each particular idea in this discourse. So today we will study the fifth verse, which is to be able to serve and support your parents, to cherish your own family, to have a vocation that brings you joy. This is the greatest happiness. So this particular verse has to do with our daily lives. Very, very, very realistic, very practical as well. So we live with our family, we're brought into this world by our parents, and we all have to go to work. We all have to make a living. And so the Buddha teaches in this verse that to be able to still have parents to support is a condition of happiness. It's true for many of us, And I know that if we are here to pray for our relatives today, we know that When we look at those around us who still have their relatives, we feel that they are very lucky. And this is something that we should bring to mind every day, because sometimes we forget. And this is why we also study the teachings every Sunday, or try to do it as many times as we can, to reinstate the fact that we are very fortunate and we still have those conditions of happiness. To cherish our own family, to cherish your own family is also a skill. To be able to support your parents is also a skill. When I say a skill, I mean by supporting our parents through food, through clothing, through repaying them materialistically for what they've done for you is one point. What they've done for us is one point. And to cherish our own family in that way is also only one part of the equation. But as we know, everything that is physical, everything that can be given physically, whether it is food, whether it is clothing, whether it is a house, it cannot be as wonderful as giving someone happiness. Sometimes we might not have a lot of food or clothing, we might not have a lot of necessities, but we have a lot of love and a lot of happiness. So being there for each other, being there for our parents, being there for our family, and most importantly, as I have shared through the many sessions we had together, that sharing with them the practice, sharing with them the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and as well as practicing those teachings ourselves will make our life noticeably more happier and make their lives more happier as well. Today we're focusing on to have a vocation that brings you joy. Means to have a kind of work, a job that allows us to be happy and ultimately happy, truly happy, not just temporarily happy. And we will see what I mean by ultimately happy as we continue to go through these verses. So the Buddha encourages us to do work. So we know the Eightfold Path. One of the factors of the Eightfold Path is right livelihood. And that means making a living in a righteous and beneficial way. Basically having a job that makes our lives peaceful, allows our life to be at peace, and allows the lives of others to be at peace, including animals, including plants and minerals, in any way that we can. In the end, the job that we pick as a student of the Buddha, or as the Buddha encouraged us, should not lead to further suffering in the future. And when we choose a job, we should take into consideration that we do that job for us, but that job will impact the world, impact society, and also impact our children. As a mother and a father, I'm sure many of our elders here who have been to the temple for a long time, they have somehow brought their children into the practice as well. Because when they come to the temple, when they come to volunteer, to work, their children might not go to the temple as often as them. But from many, many friends that I meet who have parents that come to the temple, grandparents that come to the temple, they know that there must be something good to do at the temple, or it must make my grandparents or my mom and dad feel a kind of satisfaction, or a kind of sense of happiness and joy when they come to the temple. And that's why they come. And so the path that we choose in life impacts our children and our descendants. So whenever we choose a job, we need to be very, very mindful. I know many uncles and aunties who have to be fishermen or fisherwomen because the whole lineage of their ancestors has always been in the job, in the field of catching fish. So it's almost like passing down your karma to your children. Although you cannot directly take on the karma of another person onto yourself. unless you have a very great vow. But when we pick a job like that, for example, that hurts living beings, many living beings, then our children will be raised up in that kind of environment. So we have to be very careful. In the Anguttara Nikaya, one of the collections of the Buddha's discourses, the Buddha speaks a little bit about what is wrong livelihood. And I would ask permission to read in Vietnamese, just so our uncles and aunties here can also enjoy the teachings as well. Yeah. Giờ con xin phép con đọc một đoạn từ kinh Tăng Chi Bộ nói về người buôn bán. Có 5 nghề buôn bán này các tỳ kheo, một nam cư sĩ không có nên làm. Thế nào là 5? Buôn bán đao kiếm, buôn bán người, buôn bán thịt, buôn bán rượu, buôn bán thuốc độc. Có 5 nghề buôn bán này các tỷ kheo, một nam cư sĩ không nên làm. Và nữ cư sĩ. Monks, a lay follower should not engage in these 5 types of businesses. Which 5? Businesses in weapons, businesses in human beings, businesses in meat, businesses in intoxicants, and businesses in in poison. So most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Businesses in human beings is like trading human beings, or in the past they would have slaves and things like that. Businesses in meat is hurting living beings by taking their lives in any way. Businesses in intoxicants is because of the 5 Buddhist trainings, of the 5 precepts. They're not really even Buddhist if you really read them. They're more like protective, moral guides that can help to prevent situations of suffering from arising in our lives. When we take the 5 mindfulness trainings, we have more freedom. Sometimes we think that we take these trainings and we have to keep them now, but actually, the safer they keep us, the more freer we will become. For example, one training is not to intoxicate our bodies. And intoxicating our bodies means taking in anything that will destroy our bodies, whether it is through physical food, whether it's through anything that we take through mentally, for example, watching particular things that have a lot of violence, and always allowing the mind food to be fed in a very unhealthy way. So one of the main parts of the 5th precept is not to take in any intoxicants, which is specifically more alcohol. And the reason why alcohol is such a big thing is because when we drink alcohol, we lose control of our mind. We lose the sanity, and we lose our own ability to be able to judge what is right from wrong. We can barely even walk straight when we drink alcohol, so how can we think straight? So the Buddha advised us not to I guess, in a way, for example, when you go to a party, or if you ever have to have a drink because your friends are there or because it's a family event, and everybody's drinking at a moderate level, then in a way it's okay, but not to overindulge in alcohol and these toxins which can destroy our body. So in drinking alcohol, if there is a consumer, then there has to be a producer or a supplier. So as a Buddhist, as a layperson or a disciple of the Buddha, we promise, or we vow, we try our best to steer clear away from making conditions that can cause other people to have suffering in their lives. And that one of those things is producing alcohol. I know some man that is in a wine vineyard is probably not thinking in this kind of way, and is probably not seeing that the situation is so traumatic. But truly, if we reflect deeply, and especially as Buddhists, we know a lot better than to pick any kind of job without further reflection, and if it's according or not to the teachings of the Buddha. So basically, right livelihood is not going after only what makes money. We all need money to survive. Well, some of us don't need money to survive, but in this modern society, we need to be able to make ends meet. And in the spirit of the Buddha's teachings, the Buddha didn't say that wealth is bad, or money is bad, or that we shouldn't we should all become monks and nuns and not have anything to do with money, or he didn't say that money in itself is a bad thing. There are things that happen that are bad if we don't know how to use money correctly. But the Buddha also encouraged his lay community to accumulate wealth through righteous means. It means you can follow your dreams, you can be ambitious, you can have a successful life, but the way that you get there has to be righteous. And one other very important thing is that we share that wealth with others. And we can see that the Buddha mentions this in a sutra. And I'd just like to read to you a little bit of the sutra. The sutta. Poverty is called suffering in the world. So the Buddha says that for those who are in the world, poverty is suffering. And we don't have enough food, we don't have enough clothing. If we are practitioners, then we might not suffer so much. But for sure, when there's nothing in our stomachs and our tummy is rumbling and making sound and there's nothing to put inside of it, then of course that's a kind of suffering. Poverty is called suffering in the world. So too is getting into debt. A poor person in debt, partaking of sensuality, suffers hardship. So when the Buddha says someone that's partaking in sensuality, he means that as lay people. For us lay people, we are in this world we're always in these 5 things, or more or less affected by them in one way or in another, which is tai, which is riches, sak, which is beauty, yan, fame, thuk is food, and tui is sleep. And so the sensual pleasures are so. And when we are in a world where we have to sleep, we have to, of course, be hygienic. We have to also live in such a way where other people don't see us as a bad person. We try our best to live in such a way that these things are at hand and we know how to use them, but we don't become overly indulged in them. For example, fame can become a problem for us. Food can become a problem for us. Too much sleep can become a problem for us. So if we are in the world, which means it's the opposite of being a monastic. For example, as a monk, we try our best not to accumulate wealth. We try our best not to focus so much on beauty. Monks and nuns, they have their own beauty as well. If you look at the monks or the nuns, although we don't use makeup, we don't use cosmetics, we don't make ourselves smell good, or we don't get haircuts, but our beauty is something that we want to allow to shine from the inside. Yeah. Compassion is a kind of beauty. Love is a kind of beauty. Understanding and patience is a kind of beauty. And that beauty never fades. The beauty that we have on the outside, no matter how much cosmetics we put on, the kind of ladies' hairstyle that we get, one day, inevitably, when we become old, we can ask all of the ams and bas here that one day, that beauty will not matter so much anymore when your hair starts to fall out, when your skin starts to wrinkle. And so, when the Buddha says anyone taking part of sensuality, he means normal people. And put them into bondage, the painful bond for one longing to gain sensual pleasures. So if we always run after these things, if we always chase after them, the more that we chase, the more that we run after those things and don't realize that we have enough, the more that we will stress ourselves out and suffer. Now, anyone with no conviction in the disciple of the noble ones, no sense of shame, no sense of compunction, contemplating evil actions, doing wrong by any way of body, speech, or mind, and they think, may they not know about me. He creeps along in the body, speech, or mind, piling up evil actions here and there again and again. He with evil actions, his wisdom weak, knowing his own wrongdoing, is a poor person in debt. So now the Buddha talks about the monk or the nun or the spiritual cultivator or practitioner. Lay people, when they're not able to make an ends meet, when they have no wealth, no food, in that way, even when they have no wealth, no food, and they owe, that means they're in debt. But we have to be very careful as monks as well. Now, although we don't have much to do with money, to do with personal possessions, but if we don't have any virtues, if the monks themselves don't practice, if we ourselves don't become true practitioners, and we live in such a way where we appear as we are as monks to everyone, but there's no quality of a monk inside of us, then we're just like a person who is in debt. And this is what the Buddha taught. So we can say that the Buddha didn't teach only for the monks, and he didn't teach only for the people, but he taught for both. And this is the important part. But one with confidence, living at home, making gifts of his belongings, righteously gained, wins both goals, advantage in the here and now, and happiness in the world beyond. The liberality of this householder piles up merit. So, if we are one that lives at home, which means we're not a monk or a nun, but we, with confidence meaning having confidence in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, having confidence in ourselves and our capacity to be successful, and we accumulate wealth, but this wealth is righteously gained, and we give out what we have, we share what we have to others, then that advantage not only presents itself to us here and now, but that advantage continues to carry us beyond. So we know many, many charitable people who have lived on, their name has been in textbooks and books and on the lips of people for many, many decades, for many, many hundreds of years, thousands of years. And although they died a long time ago, but whenever we talk about those people, then they still live on, because although they have passed away, but their good deeds are still being mentioned. And when we give to the people around us, we will start to see that people around us become more, we cause people around us to become more joyous as well. I once heard from a venerable monk, he was talking about merit. And merit is a pretty confusing concept in Buddhism sometimes, but he put it very simply, and I really liked the way that he shared it. He said that merit is like having a torch or a light. If you take your light and you share it with other people, then everyone comes to you and you share a bit of your merit with them, then you will cause the whole place around you to be lit. You will cause the whole place around you to shine. So our merits are the same. If we have a cookie, even if it's a cookie, if we break that cookie into two, then 2 people can taste that cookie. If we have a cookie and we break it into 4, 4 people can taste the cookie. And it's not about sometimes how much you eat of that cookie, it's if you got a bit of it or not. Right? And sometimes just a tiny little piece of a cookie can make you very, very happy, because you know that the other person is kind and wants to share with you. So that's how we make merit and we share merit. It doesn't have to be a lot. Sometimes it's very little, but the impact that we make is very, very large. And so back to the, that was from the Anguttara Nikaya as well, from a sutta called the Inna Sutta. And back to the topic of the no-nos that we're not supposed to do as students of the Buddha for work. Let's focus on the first thing, which is weapons. So any kind of weapon production or weapon trade, weapon sales. And it's a sensitive topic because there are many people who are in favor of weapons, and many people think that having a weapon will bring you more safety and you have the chance to defend yourself. But some people think differently. They think that sometimes having more weapons increases the chances of people being hurt. And so it's quite a sensitive topic, but this is my own take on the topic, and as well as somewhat of what the Buddha taught as well. So as young friends and as moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, we might know that we know someone in our lives who plays a lot of games. I personally myself, I'm not very good at playing games, and when I play games I get a headache. But I know a lot of my friends who play games, and especially games that have violence, shooting or killing. And I remember seeing someone play a game called Grand Theft Auto once, and seeing them do all these things in a game was kind of scary for me. And I thought, possibly with the kinds of games that we are producing nowadays, when young people play these games, it goes into their minds and start to take a liking for it. For example, I have a cousin who likes to play Minecraft. And Minecraft is this game. And in Minecraft there's this sword. So his mom bought him this sword, I think possibly because they went to the store and he probably asked his mom to buy it. But then he came to the retreat here and he was carrying the sword around wherever he went. And no grown-up could ask him to let go of that sword. Wherever he went, he always took that sword with him, and he would poke the other kids, and he would make slashing noises and things like that. And for some instances, I was able to kind of skillfully take away that sword and hide it somewhere, so then he wouldn't have anything to do with the sword during the day. And at the end of the day, I thought that he was going to forget about his sword, but he came to me and he said, "Hey, can I have my sword back?" And I gave his sword back to him. But this just shows me how much the things that our younger generations consume, how much can really impact their lives. The games that they play, the videos that they watch. And there was another little boy who came to the retreat. And he's very, very, very cute. I think he only stands up to around my side. But he asked me to make him a paper tank. And he always asked me to make this paper tank throughout the whole day. And at the end of the day, I finally made it for him, and he was very, very happy. But in my mind, I wasn't really thinking at that moment that, oh, maybe I should make him a tank, or maybe I should propose that I make him something else. Because tanks are kind of violent. But next time, when he came, he asked me to make something out of paper again. And this time he said, "Tai, can you make me a paper gun?" Oh, and when he said the word gun, it really struck me. I said, "Oh no, I cannot make him a paper gun." So I asked him, "Gong, do you want me to make you something else? Maybe what's your favorite animal?" And then he said, "Okay, you can make me this kind of fish." And I went online to search up what the fish looked like, because I've never heard of this fish before, and it was a very, very scary fish. So everything that he likes is very, very scary. Guns, tanks, scary fish, and it's not his fault. And he was born into this world, and he didn't think a lot about what he would like and what he didn't like. But in the end, we can see that those things are deeply rooted in who he identifies himself to be. So it's really important that we try to water the seeds of loving kindness, water the seeds of positivity in our children. There was another young boy who, well, let's save that one for later. The Buddha said that better than winning thousands of men in a battle is better to conquer our own minds. So we can try our best to pick as many fights as we can, but the fight of our mind can never be won if we don't know how to be patient, if we don't know how to be loving, even to those who pick a fight with us. There was a little boy one time who had a stick in his hand, and he was running everywhere with the stick when we were playing soccer, and he was kind of hitting everyone with the stick a little bit too hard. And so I thought in my mind, oh, maybe I'll try something. And I went over to the bush and I picked out a very long flower and I gave it to him and I said, "Okay, now you trade me this stick for this flower, and you can do whatever you want. And then he went around, but then he realized that you can't hit anyone with the flower or hurt anyone with the flower. So he just went around with the flower, and he showed people the flower. So after doing that, I realized just how impactful, if we engage in a little bit more reflection, if we are more skillful in the way that we teach children, how much we can change them. With war going on, and with people in the world being very, very heavily influenced by hatred, by anger, by confusion, although we try our best to do whatever we can in the present to make the situation better, the really important thing, I think, is to begin from the children, because the children are like the roots. Sometimes when we wait for the tree to grow and the tree becomes deeply rooted in the ground, it's very difficult. Or when the tree becomes hardened and it has a trunk, it's very difficult to bend the tree. But if we start at the beginning, we bend the sapling and we learn ways to take care of that sapling, then when it becomes a tree, we will be satisfied with the way the tree turned out. Very, very healthy and beautiful. So teaching our children good values and morals is already doing a lot of good things for society. It's already protecting society. When we teach our children to do good things, when we teach our little brother and sister to do good things, instill kindness, awaken that seed of kindness in their minds, we are already helping the world, helping society, although we might not see it. All those dictators, all those people who cause a lot of wars, all those people who were terrorists were once children as well. So it's really important how we instill the seeds, how we water the seeds in our children, and how we guide our children and our descendants. That's our job. To invest in education, so to teach these things in schools as well, to not only teach math, not only to teach science, not only to teach how to read and write, but also to teach morality and encourage good deeds in school as well. Buddhism teaches us to take the problems from their own roots, the causes of the suffering. And just as I said, if we wait for the suffering to be at hand, then it's already a little bit too much work for us. It's already too overwhelming when the suffering is already there at hand. So just like in the Four Noble Truths, first we realize that there is suffering. Then we have to go to the cause, the root of that suffering, and transform that suffering from its root. And once we are able to do that, then we will be able to break the process of suffering. The root of suffering, the root of difficulties, unsatisfaction is our own states of greed, of hatred, and of ignorance. And man is not our enemy. This is one line from a poem that Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that always rings to me in my heart, is man is not our enemy. And one time when a little boy at the temple did something wrong, I was kind of supposed to take care of him, but I was away for a while and he was at the temple. And something happened when I went to our teacher and I said, "Tai, I'm sorry. I feel like I could have done better to take care of him." He said, "It's okay, my dear. Everyone is just a victim of their own greed, hatred, and ignorance. So everyone is a victim." It's a very compassionate way to look at it. So, in general, to summarize everything up for the whole big deal with weapons is that as Buddhists, we shouldn't involve ourselves with any kinds of weapon production or selling of weapons or encouraging weapon use. Some people might say that guns make them feel more protected. But I think whenever there are guns, and where there are guns, a lot of death and higher rates of death occur. because the human mind is the source, is the root. The human mind is not yet tamed, and if our minds are not yet tamed, then we will always act on our impulses and our anger. So it is really important to work from the mind and to take the problem from its root cause. Hopefully everyone is still with me here. Before we end, I just want to read to you a short story about a tale that the Buddha recounted as one of his previous existences. Once upon a time, the enlightened being was born as the son of the king and queen of Benares. On the day of his naming, 800 fortune tellers were invited to the palace. As presents, they were given whatever they desired to make them happy for the moment. Then they were asked to tell the fortune of the newborn prince. This was so they could find a good name for him. One of the fortune tellers was an expert in reading the marks on the body, and he said, "My lord, this is a being of great merit. He will be the king after you." The fortune tellers were very clever. They told the king and the queen whatever they wanted to hear. They said, "Your son will become skilled in 5 weapons. He will become famous as the greatest master of all of the 5 weapons throughout India." Based on this, the king and queen named their son Prince 5 Weapons. So this is the story of Prince 5 Weapons. When the prince turned 16, the king decided to send him to college. He said, "Go, my son, to the city of Takasila, where you will find a famous teacher. Learn all you can from him and give him this money as a payment." He gave him 1,000 gold coins and sent him on his way. The prince went to the world-famous teacher in Takasila and studied very hard to become the best pupil. When the teacher had taught him all he knew, he gave the prince a special graduation award. He gave him 5 weapons. Let's see what these 5 weapons are. Then he sent him back to Benares. On his way home, he came to a forest which was haunted by a monster. The local people warned Prince 5 Weapons, "Young man, don't go through the forest. There is a monstrous demon called Sticky Hair living in there. He kills everyone he sees." But the prince was self-confident and fearless like a young lion. So he pushed on into the forest until he came face to face with the dreadful monster. He was as tall as a tree, with a head as big as the roof of a house, and his eyes as big as dishes. Mind you, this is a story rewritten for children, so it sounds a bit exaggerated. But he had 2 big yellow tusks sticking out of his gaping white mouth filled with ugly brown teeth. He had a huge belly covered with white spots, and his hands and feet were blue. The monster roared and growled at the prince. "Where are you going in this forest, little man? You look like a nasty morsel to me. I'm going to gobble you up." The prince had just graduated from college and had won the highest award from his teacher. So he knew just about everything, and that he could do just about anything. He replied, "Oh, fierce demon, I am Prince 5 Weapons. I have come on purpose to find you. I dare you to attack me. I will kill you easily with my first 2 weapons, my bow and poison-tipped arrows." Then he put a poison arrow in his bow and shot it straight at the monster, but the arrow just stuck fast to his hair, like glue, without hurting him at all. Then the prince shot, one after another, all the rest of his 50 poison-shaped arrows, but they also stuck fast to the hair of Sticky Hair. Then the beast shook his body, from ugly rooftop-sized head to blue-colored feet, and all the arrows fell harmlessly to the ground. So the prince continued to use his next weapon, which was a sword. But guess what? It also got stuck in Sticky Hair's hair. And then he tried a club. When he threw the club, he used the sword and plunged it into his enemy, but then it just stuck to the coat. Then he used his 4th weapon, which was a spear. But the same thing also happened. Then he used the last of his 5 weapons, which was a club, and this also stuck to the monster. Then the prince yelled at him, "Hey, you monster! Haven't you ever heard of me, Prince 5 Weapons? I have more than just my 5 weapons. I have the strength of my young man's body. I will break you in pieces." He hit Sticky Hair with his right fist, just like a boxer. But his hand stuck to Sticky Hair's coat, and he couldn't remove it. And so, as you can probably guess, he used his other fist, then he used his feet, then he used his foot to kick the monster, but then his foot also got stuck. Finally, he butted him as hard as he could with his head, just like a wrestler, but lo and behold, his head got stuck as well. Even while sticking to the hairy monster in 5 places, hanging down from his coat, the prince had no fear. Sticky Hair then thought, "This is very strange indeed. He is more like a lion than a man. Even with the grasp of this ferocious monster like me, he does not tremble with fear. All this time I've been killing people in this forest, but I've never met anyone as brave and great as this prince. Why isn't he afraid of me?" Since Prince 5 Weapons was not like any ordinary man, Sticky Hair was afraid to eat him right away. Instead, he asked him, "Young man, aren't you afraid of death?" The prince replied, "Why should I be afraid of death? There is no doubt that anyone who is born will definitely die." Then the enlightened being thought, "The 5 weapons given to me by the world-famous teacher have been useless. Even the lion-like strength of my young man's body has been useless. I must go beyond my teacher, beyond my body, to the weapon inside my mind, the only weapon that I will need." The prince continued speaking to Sticky Hair. "There's one small detail, O monstrous one, I haven't told you about yet. In my belly is my secret weapon, a diamond weapon which you cannot digest. It will cut your intestines into pieces if you were foolish enough to swallow me. So if I die, you die. That is why I am not afraid of you." In this way, the prince used his greatest inner strength in a way that Sticky Hair could easily understand. He knew the greatest of all weapons, the one inside his mind, was the precious diamond gem of his own wisdom. Sticky Hair thought, "No doubt this fearless man is telling the truth. Even if I eat as much as the pea-sized tidbit of such a hero, I won't be able to digest him. So I will let him go." Fearing his own death, he set Prince 5 Weapons free. He said, "You are a great man. I will not eat your flesh. I let you go free, and just like the moon that reappears after an eclipse, so you may shine pleasantly on all of your relatives and friends." So the lesson behind this story, there's a bit more of the story, but I don't think I'm going to read it all, is that the only weapon that we need is hidden inside of us. And that is our weapon of wisdom, our qualities of loving kindness, and especially our skillfulness, our understanding. Sometimes when it comes to teaching children, we think that discipline, it's long been a popular belief and passed down for many generations that sometimes spanking your children or hitting your kids is the way to go. But I believe that this is not the right way. And if we were very, very well learned in the practice, if we study the Buddhist teachings well, we will have so many other wonderful ways to teach our children instead of abusing them or hitting them or scaring them in any way. And so you don't need to use physical violence, but you need to use your wisdom as your only weapon. In this situation, you see that the past life of the Buddha was this 5 weapons prince. And we might say, well, he's the Buddha. He's a bodhisattva, a Buddha to be. So easy for him to do that. But I'm not a Buddha. I'm nowhere close to being a Buddha. Then how am I going to do that? We are all students of the Buddha. And we all hope to be like the Buddha. Just like when we have a teacher, and if we always want to become a teacher in the future, then right when we start, at a young age, we have that aspiration to become a teacher, and we should nurture that aspiration. Because within everyone is the seed of becoming a teacher. With everyone is the seed of greatness, of potential. And that seed we call Buddha nature. So all of us can become the Buddha. And the message that I want to share with us today is that hopefully we can utilize those Buddha qualities inside of us in order to guide our children in the right path, to guide ourselves in the right path, and to make the world a better place in the future, by starting with ourselves and by starting with our children. There was some friends who asked on Friday meditation about the current war that's going on. And I saw some of my friends on Facebook posting and sharing things on Facebook about how if we don't do something about it, then we're not any better than those who are causing the war, are causing pain. And for me, I think personally, just for my own opinion, I think we should do our best to aid and bring relief to those who are in the war. I think avoiding the news and not watching the news and not taking those things in is not a good way either. I think that we should know what's happening in the world, and we should send as much help as we can to those places, whether it is money, whether it is our prayers. When we send money to aid those victims of war, helping them have enough food, enough shelter, and offering some kind of support. But at the same time, as we studied today, the root of the problem lies in ourselves, in our mind. So we must begin with our mind first. And when we practice well in ourselves, peace in oneself, peace in the world. And as well as if we can teach our children this, then our children will be very, very happy in the future as well. So there's another point that that you might ask is, what about policemen? Policemen are people who work with weapons, and sometimes a policeman will have to have a gun. Well, they always have a gun on themselves, and in situations of difficulty or danger, or sometimes in order to do the best thing, they might have to use their gun. And so, would it be bad to be a policeman, or would it be wrong livelihood according to the Buddhist teachings to be a policeman? And the answer would be no. Although in the end, when you have to take action in order to protect yourselves and others, it's a way that is somewhat justified, but the karma is still received and it's still there, but the karma is just not as terrible as intentionally killing another person for no reason. And so just to clear that up with everyone. And hopefully the things that I've shared today will bring some interest and some benefit to all of us. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend, and hope to see you again for the next coming weeks, so that we can continue to study the teachings of the Buddha together to make the world a better place. Thank you for your listening. Chúng con xin cảm ơn quý cô, quý bác, quý chú, quý Phật tử đã để thời gian ra để lắng nghe chúng con chia sẻ. Con biết là nói chuyện rất là dài, mà nói tiếng Anh nữa, cho nên có thể nó sẽ không có, mọi người không phải ai cũng không phải là món ăn của tất cả mọi người, nhưng mà con hy vọng là những ai ăn được những gì thì mình sẽ bổ dưỡng được chừng đó, mình ăn được những gì mà thích thì mình sẽ hoan hỷ với phần ăn của mình. Nam mô Di Đà Phật. Con xin cảm ơn quý bác. And now please release your legs. Con kính mời đại chúng ta duỗi chân, và trước khi chúng ta tiến linh cúng ông bà và các người thân quá vãng thì chúng ta duỗi chân. Và khi nghe tiếng khánh thì mình đồng đứng dậy để xá Phật. Dear friends, please release your legs, and when you hear the sound of the small handbell, we will all stand up together and turn to the Buddha and bow to show our gratitude. So please take your time to stretch your legs. Xin quý bác cứ từ từ duỗi chân, không sao.